Hi guys, Nate here with Sea Legs. First of all, I wanted to congratulate you on your new purchase of Sea Legs, the hydraulic lift system that goes where you go. We know that you're going to love it. In front of me is our pump system for our two-tube pontoon system. We have a triple tube pontoon system as well, which we'll be going over later. But number one, wanted to just point out some of the things that you're going to see on your pontoon now that you have Sea Legs installed. Like I said, this is our power unit hydraulic system that is going to run the Sea Legs. You have the hoses, 4 hoses, 2 go to the front legs, 2 go to the rear legs. You have your power battery cables that go over to your battery, and you have your remote system that's going to be attached to the pump to tell the system to go up or down. On the remote receiving unit, this will be more than likely mounted against one of the sidewalls and where the compartment is where the Sea Legs pump will be located. And on this you have a front up and down and a rear up and down switch to operate the Sea Legs manually if you need to, if you're in a pinch and don't have the remote control that comes with it. On the remote control, this has one extra feature, boat up and down. So what that means is the boat up button would mean that the boat would rise out of the water, and the boat down button would lower the boat back down to the water. Same with the front and the rear. It's the way that you want the boat to go. So boat up would bring the boat out of the water, boat down, same with front and rear. Like I mentioned previously, we do have an inline breaker. So this is to help the system protect it from a couple of different things. I did say low voltage on the battery. And a lot of the times in the summer, if you don't visit or go out boating for a little length of period of time, when you go to the pontoon and you hit the lower button to bring it back down to the water, the battery is already in a weak state. If it's too weak, what could happen is that could pop the breaker. Low voltage on a battery creates high amperage, which creates high heat. So we're trying to protect the system from high heat so we don't burn up or break any of the electrical sides of the system. On the boat battery side of it, there's many different configurations, many different boat batteries. The one thing that you always want to remember with our system is this is over a 1 horsepower pump, so it requires a lot of juice. The best battery for Sea Legs is a marine starting battery, not a deep cycle battery. Number 2, we require a minimum of a 850 marine or cold cranking amp battery. 1050 is the most common marine battery to get, and if you go that way, you're not going to have any issues as far as supplying power to the pump. With many different configurations, boat layouts, and how they wire everything, it is very important to know how the Sea Legs are hooked up to your battery. Is there a second battery? Is there a switch? Are they hooked together? Is it charging off your boat battery? These are all questions that you should ask your rigging department when they're going over the boat with you. You want to know how the Sea Legs are hooked up to the battery system. The big thing is the outboard will charge the battery, but you don't want the Sea Legs battery to be isolated away from the charging system so it's not getting a charge. You want everything to be able to work as a system together. So it's very important that the Sea Legs battery is also hooked up in line with the outboard so it charges the battery for continuing use over and over and over again. Alright guys, I just want to go over a couple of the actual individual components on our twin tube power unit so you know how to identify different things. It's actually pretty simple as far as how the electrical side works versus the hydraulic side. The electrical side, there's truly only 3 items that come into play when talking about how to get the Sea Legs to run. If you look down here, you have your battery that's going to be supplying the power. You do have your inline breaker, so you should have power going into, this is called the trombetta solenoid. So this is the solenoid that actually lets the motor spin one way to go up or one way to go down. Underneath that, it's feeding the electric motor, 12-volt electric motor. It's a little over a 1 horse motor. So what it's happening is it's putting negative to one side and positive to the other, and then switching it to run the system the opposite way to run it up or down. That's pretty easy from an electrical standpoint of how to actually run the pump. Now on the hydraulic side, we have our manifold up top, which that has the hoses hook up that actually go down to the legs. On here you'll actually see green, blue. That's going to be the front, and for the front set of sea legs, one's going to be, the green is the front retract, so that's going to lower the legs. The blue is the front extend, so I always say blue is skies, that's up, green is grass, so that's down. The yellow and the red are for the rear. So the yellow is going to be the retract, the red is going to be the extend. Next to the manifold are coils that operate a valve system. So when the sea legs are not in use, the valve is locked, and what that means is it will not let fluid flow between the retract and extend, so you don't get any sagging or fading down while the pontoon is lifted up on the sea legs, or you don't get any of that fading when the pontoon is going out on the water. These are done magnetically, and they're operated by 12 volts. So two things happen when the system is turned on. Number one, it tells the solenoid which way to activate to let the motor run one way to go up or one way to go down, and then the other signal is sent to the valve to open it for the front or the rear. On the retract circuit, we do have a pressure switch in line, and when the legs retract and hit the bottom of the deck, it spikes the pressure up, this senses it, and it does two things. One, it turns on your alarm so that you know that the legs are retracted all the way, the beep beep that you'll hear, and two, it'll actually shut off the pump so you don't overload the pump. On the extend side, when you're lifting the pontoon out of the water, it does not have this feature because of the pressure that we run. You will hear a different sound in the pump when the legs are fully extended, and it'll almost sound like the pontoon or the system is laboring, and because that's what it's doing. If you do hold it there too long, the heat is going to raise and your breaker is going to pop. So if you do run the system fully extended, maxed out for more than a little bit of time, the breaker will pop. Simply reset the breaker, let the system cool down, and operate it again. The breaker might also be on the battery side of your connection as well. It might not be on the pump side. So there's two different ways that it could be. So it is a marine grade breaker system, but I don't know of many other manufacturers as far as boats that are using this style of breaker. We're running on this system a 70 amp breaker, but it could be an 80, it could be a 60, dependable on the application. Hi guys, Nate here with Sea Legs. What I have in front of me here is our triple tube power unit. So this is going to be for any triple tube pontoon. You do notice that it is a little bit bigger with the valve system, the motor, everything is going to be a little bit bigger because we do accommodate much larger weights and pontoon types. There is a little bit of functionality difference between the triple. Since you do have independent legs, the system is wired and hydraulically driven a little bit differently. With our triple tubes, there's always two legs running at one time, and what that means is when the front two legs are running, you can run the two rear legs together, the passenger legs, the driver legs, but two are always going to be moving at once, so then you don't get too much pressure on one leg at any given time. Also, it will not lift until there's equal pressure on those two legs. So if you're running the front two legs and one is deeper than the other, it won't start lifting the front of the pontoon until there's equal pressure between two legs. So then you don't get too much pressure on one leg. This does have 4 valves on it, so there are 2 more valves on this particular system, but everything else is going to be very similar as far as how it actually runs. You're still going to have an inline breaker, you're still going to have the trombetta solenoid system, you're still going to have the pressure switch. The motor is going to be bigger. It's almost a 2 horsepower motor, or a little over 2 horsepower motor. It requires a lot of juice So that's where it's very, very optimal to have a 850 plus. I would just go with 1,000 marine cranking amp battery, and that will be definitely good. In some situations with extremely large pontoons, you might have to run two batteries in parallel, and if you need to know more about how to do that, contact your dealer, or you can always contact us at Sea Legs. Like I did indicate, our triple tube system has 4 independent legs, and you do have another feature with that. So I'll go over the remote with you right now. So the remote, this is the receiving unit. It's going to be inside one of the seat compartments along with the pump. On here, this is more primarily used as a backup in case you lose your remote. This is going to have the front and rear up and down. So if you need to raise the pontoon up, if you need to lower it, that's where this is going to come in handy. The actual remote has a lot of buttons. So you do have your driver and passenger functions on this that you don't have in your standard system. You're still going to have the boat up and down. You're still going to have front up and down, rear up and down, but also on the triple tube you're going to get passenger and driver up and down. And what that's going to allow you to do is, number one, park parallel to shore if it's a little deeper on one side versus the other, or fine-tune the boat side to side. Many pontoons, such as this one that have a bar, have displacement issues where it might be heavier on one side of the boat versus the other. On the hydraulic system, on their triple tube system, the oil is always going to follow the path of least resistance. So if it is heavier on one side of the boat, or if you have more people sitting on one side of the boat versus the other, it might come up a little bit lower on that side. And how you're going to accommodate for that is just simply hit driver, passenger up and down, and that will help fine-tune the boat side to side. That about concludes our tutorial as far as the twin tube and triple tube system. We thoroughly hope that you enjoy your Sea Legs. We appreciate the business. If there's anything that we can do, please don't hesitate to reach out to us directly. Thank you again.